Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America, and all the ships at sea. In the eastern United States lies a great swamp, larger than anything Louisiana or Florida can match. Viewers, this thing is massive and it is deep, and it also houses some of the deadliest creatures known to humankind. In fact, it can be said that there has been nothing like this swamp either before or since recorded in all of Earth's history. The particular location of this seedy body of water is in and around the District of Columbia. Physically, it can be said to stretch from Gaithersburg, Maryland in the north all the way to Mount Vernon, Virginia in the south, and from Leesburg, Virginia in the west all the way to Annapolis, Maryland in the east. However, it needs to be noted that in all actuality, this swamp encompasses a much broader area of the United States in its entirety. People, this particular swamp can be, needs to be, must be drained to its bottom. And it just so happened that the greatest hope we have for that was most recently elected into the position of authority to do exactly that. You know full well what I am talking about here, and I will not even say the name of the swamp drainer-in-chief. You know, I know. It needs to happen, it must happen, or else the future of our nation will not be good, to say the very least. And now, my friends, I'm going to delve just a bit deeper into exactly how the existence of this swamp permeates American society and detrimentally affects each and every U.S. citizen. Where to begin? Alphabets, yes, alphabets. And I'm not referring to kids' breakfast cereal here either. No, my loyal viewers, we have to look the giant in the eye and aim squarely for the jugular. What I am talking about here are the numerous bloated agencies created under well-meaning mandates of the U.S. Congress at some point in the nation's past, but now far too gone and necrotized for any hope of keeping them on life support even one more day. ATF, CDC, CIA, DOJ, FBI, FCC, FDA, FTC, EEOC, IRS, NASA, and so many more. Many of these are now so bloated and gangrenous that they would not even be recognizable by the politicians who long ago put them into being. To top it all off, none, not a one, of the bacteria inhabiting these crevices of the Great Swamp were ever selected or voted upon by you or me. No, they were either appointed by a former politician who once occupied the White House, or much like cancer, spread from those original appointments in the most necrotizing manner possible. Folks, it must be noted that the more government is never good government, and these rotten limbs must now be amputated. There is just no dancing around this, no matter how badly some might want me to do so. Anyone remember when HDTV became the new standard for American television broadcast and home hardware in the early 2000s? Did any of you by chance have cable or satellite subscriptions at that time? If you did, then you most likely remember how those cable and satellite companies jacked the prices way up when it came to feeding you their HDTV signals. Sure, you could hold on to the old standard definition channel package for as long as those companies would allow, but eventually you would be forced to pay the HGTV extortion rates for your monthly television programming. The unelected swamp creatures at the bottom of the Great Swamp made that happen. Now, you might argue that had they not mandated an HDTV switchover, we would not have the crisp, clear television signals and hardware that we have today. I would back you on that assessment, but it also must be noted that the corporate slime that be saw it as another slot machine to pull the lever on and come up all cherries with the words jackpot. Let it be known that often what the swamp creatures dictate to you, their poor subjects, is not always overtly nefarious in its original intent, but the downstream effects are not well thought through, if they are ever thought through at all. I know you have seen with your own glazed-over eyes as Merrick Garland and Christopher Wray just made a massive mockery of the U.S. justice system over the past 3.85 years. Well, folks, suffice it to say that those swamp creatures were never elected by you or me, or any of your friends or relatives. Yet they have adversely impacted our lives in a manner few other diseases ever could. Is there anyone under the sound of my breath that has not suffered great loss under the fumbled quote-unquote leadership of the Federal Reserve Agency over the past nearly 4 years? Ever heard the names Janet Yellen or Jerome Powell? Suffice it to say that these two have untold power over your financial security, that of your children, and that of your great-great-grandchildren. Oh, by the way, these swamp-dwelling amoeba were never selected by you, me, or any other voting American citizen. Yet the daily decisions or misdecisions they make are truly life and death matters. Why should it be that the swamp has unchecked power like that? We all know that whenever the felon-in-chief shouted, "Start the presses," during the past 3.85 years, that these miscreants followed those orders in lockstep, all while the value of the American dollar tanked among world markets and Vladimir Zelensky grinned from ear to ear. Yours and my retirement investment values just went into the trash can as well, ensuring we will all be on the hamster wheel until the day we die. Remember only a couple years back when China unleashed a biological weapon on the world's population? How a talking head named Tony Fauci and something called the Center for Disease Control, or CDC, made your lives living hell by severe misdirection and downright foolish mandating of the wearing of completely ineffective cloth masks by everyone. Yes, many lost their livelihoods and went into bankruptcy as Tony Fauci profited from his monetary investments in the now infamous Wuhan lab, all while Rome burned here in the US and worldwide. Fauci and the CDC bacteria? Every one of these slime was not selected by you or myself, yet we were severely impacted for our own detriment by these contagions. I think it's safe to say that we were all very aware of the multitude crimes of CIA, DOJ, and IRS, especially the last 3.85 years, spent suffering under a bribe-taking felon. Next up, anyone driving an automobile these days knows fully well what TPMS is, otherwise known as Tire Pressure Monitoring System. This, quote, safety enhancement that nobody asked for was mandated by the swamp creatures called NHTSA in 2007. Since then, the price to buy and install new tires on your car or truck has tripled. Again, the standard of living just went down in the United States of America due directly to the actions of unelected, unaccountable swamp creatures. But, you say, these are not the most egregious crimes committed. Well, let's submerge ourselves a little deeper into the murky bog. Congressmen and senators, they make up some of the worst life forms found in the Great Swamp. Adam Schiff, anyone? Remember the fraudulent tales of Russian collusion? You know, perjuring before Congress, that crime that would land any of us 10 to 20 years in a federal penitentiary? Yes, that parasite. But there are also many more to be found of his species in the swamp. Anyone heard of Mitch McConnell? Yes, the former Senate Majority Leader from the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Well, tell me, what did he do during the first presidency of Donald Trump other than collude to work things out to the benefits of his communist Chinese wife and to obfuscate the rightful approval of the truly elected U.S. president in early 2021? Remember former House of Representatives Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy? He spent 9 full months in that role, all with plenty of evidence in the House majority needed to get a much-needed impeachment inquiry started on Felon Joe, and all we got from him was nada, zilch, zippo, swamp slime through and through. So, my viewers, the refreshing thing after having stated all of this is that President-elect Trump has created a new cabinet position, Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. But with our experience with alphabets, it is surely foreseeable how an uncontrolled tyrant such as Felon Joe, who comes illicitly into power, could in fact use this alphabet for every nefarious purpose he wanted. Much needed to hopefully eradicate many of the swamp diseases prevalent at the moment. You and I both know, though, that the real need is to fully drain the swamp. Nothing else will suffice. Cutting out the cancer is paramount to the future of this once great nation. Let us hope that this time around Trump truly does what he promised in his first term, and that is to drain the great swamp once and for all. Good night, and sleep well.